Welcome to the Soul Archaeology podcast, a space for connection, resonance, witnessing, and learning. Together we'll harvest medicine from the spiral of life, sharing conversations with other embodied humans who have navigated their own initiations and found alignment with their true soul essence. With weekly astrology, energy updates, embodied conversation, and channeled teachings, this is a space for you to land and find resonance with the spiral of your own soul. Hello, welcome back to Soul Archaeology. How are you all doing? It's been such a wild time. It feels almost like an extension of eclipse season in a way, having all of this Uranian energy, all of these surprises, the electric energy of Uranus with Mars and Aries as well, a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, a Sun and Jupiter conjunction, a Venus-Uranus conjunction, all at the latest degrees of Taurus, which means that we are wrapping things up. We're finding clarity. We are grounding and rooting into our sense of self-worth, our values, what we truly, truly deeply desire, our soul's desires, rather than our egos. Have you noticed truths popping up over the last week? I know in the last episode, I talked a lot about how many things were surfacing, surprises, shocks, revelations, things that you perhaps have been seeking clarity around or feeling into, anticipating answers for, might have come up over the last week. I know for myself, I've had a lot of those things, just sort of this sense that the sky is parting, like the sun is able to cut through the clouds and reveal the truth, reveal my truth, or reveal the reality of the situation outside of my own emotions, fears, wounds. In so many ways, we're being asked to step into courage, activating our warrior spirit, activating that fearlessness. We are dissolving, transmuting fear like crazy. That is the name of the game in this life, I think, in so many ways. We are here to heal generations of trauma, of fear, of programming and boxes looping that we have been carrying with us through generations. It's in our DNA. And as we slowly begin to peel back the layers of mistruths, illusions, and fear that really clouds our clarity, we are able to ascend. When we move through fear, when we meet fear, we access a higher state of consciousness. And even more so when we move through the fear. So when we see it, we acknowledge it, we know it's there, and we choose to move through it rather than be controlled by it. And so I have a feeling that so many of you are coming up against some pretty big decisions or revelations you're being asked to act upon, or discomforts you're being asked to sit with and sit through. Changes that perhaps need to be made in your lives that are scary, ruptures. And with it all being in Taurus, it's really asking for us to align with our self-worth, to align with our values, our true, deepest soul desires. It's scary. Having Uranus and Taurus means we're shaking our foundations. We are getting down into our roots, our root chakra, our sense of security and safety within this world, the material plane, how we really care for ourselves, the physicality, and rewiring it, restructuring it. Every time we move through fear, we build more resiliency. We create more capacity within our nervous system. We're able to prove to all of our younger parts, all of our many parts within us that we're strong, we're resilient, we care, we're dependable. And it creates so much integration of self. It creates so much repair within our own fragmented parts. And so whatever you're choosing, choose the timeline, choose the thing that, although it may be scary, it honors your self-worth. It honors your true values. Because Taurus is pleasure in physical form. It is values. It is the physicality of this human existence. Much of what we're encountering involves money, relationships, like I said, values, our self-worth. And with Venus, Sun, the Jupiter, and Uranus all in Taurus, it is pushing Taurus. It's asking for it to act, to change, to shake our foundations a little bit. You might be a little uncomfortable having to meet these thresholds or these fears. And as you know, I've talked about this many times on this podcast, but when we're going through these waves of expansion, these waves of upgrades, we've had so many intense solar flares over the last few weeks, which are really literally, quite literally means upgrades, more light entering the planet, which means it's activating our DNA in new ways. It is activating the physicality, the density we hold within our physical bodies and on this planet. It's opening up opportunities for more wisdom, more truth, more clarity, which means we have to choose how we meet that truth, that clarity, that wisdom, that information. And it can be shocking sometimes to our systems. There are things that are revealed that we could not see before. And when we meet these thresholds and we're asked to trust more, push out more, push out against our walls of familiarity and comfort, that's how we grow. We're oftentimes met with our fears of growth, our fears of change, our fears of whatever it is that it's connected to that you're being asked to embrace or challenge. What's funny is that I feel like we all if you're listening to this podcast, there's a chance you're someone who's always interested in growing and evolving. But the way we do that can be so uncomfortable. Upgrades are not comfortable. They challenge us. They put us in a pressure cooker. They ask for us to take everything through our own truth filter, to radically look at the ways in which we participate in our pain. We participate in the patterns we don't like or seek to change. Light illuminates. That's why a full moon is so activating, because the moon, our internal landscape, our emotional world, is fully illuminated. But it also gives us the opportunity to work with that truth. So what do we do with it? That's a lot of what this week is examining. As the Sun and Venus and Jupiter all move through the last degrees of Taurus, this week they will all three enter into Gemini. And this is big. Jupiter entering Gemini is one of the more profound events of 2024. In Taurus, it's been really interesting. I think this has been an interesting one because I think it's really affected everyone differently. Jupiter activates and expands anything it touches. It magnifies it. With it being in Taurus, it is really activated the material plane, money, relationship, values. It inflates in a lot of ways. We've had wild inflation, a wild housing market. There have been so many things that have felt quite enlarged and magnified. And in Gemini, it's going to be quite interesting. Gemini energy can be quite chaotic itself. Jupiter's actually in its detriment in Gemini. But as always, Jupiter provides a lot of opportunity. So there's going to be so much opportunity to open lines of communication, networking, once again, truths. But because it can be so magnified and create some chaos with it being in Gemini, it can feel very scattered. So what we want to do is really focus on what we've learned over the last year with Jupiter moving through Taurus. What are your anchors? What are your real true values? What do you need as far as self-care, nourishment, in order to feel safe, anchored, and protected? These energies build on one another. And so we're building on what we've already learned. We're building on what we've already healed and integrated within ourselves. This, of course, in the United States is an incredibly intense year. We have an election, so Jupiter moving into Gemini is just going to inflate the lines of communication, the ways in which we encounter information, the channels that we pull information from. I just feel like the world is speeding up. Time is being squeezed in so many ways. And we really, really, really need to resource. We need to utilize those anchors, whether it be a ritual, a routine, a somatic practice you love, a person, a meditation, a movement practice, or a place in nature. Utilize your anchors. Embrace the fun, playful aspect of Jupiter and Gemini. It's so playful, and it really opens up some profound opportunities for play, networking, socializing. You might feel like your world gets expanded in some ways, specifically around local community. Where are you living? Does it feel in alignment? It really depends on where this transit lands in your chart. So wherever Jupiter lands in your chart is where you'll see this inflation, this magnifying effect. We also have a very fun, curious, adventurous, optimistic full moon in Sagittarius landing on May 23rd. And really the axis of Gemini and Sagittarius is all about information, data, and communication, really wisdom. And they differ in how they gather information, how they gather and process it. How they attain wisdom is different. Sagittarius is the higher mind, so you might get some pretty incredible spiritual downloads this week. It's a really great time to harness the optimism, positivity of Sagittarius. Sagittarius's ruler is Jupiter. Jupiter is in the last degrees of Taurus, so I just get this feeling that we are really moving through completion in so many ways. Where does Sagittarius land in your chart? Where does Taurus land in your chart? This is where you'll see openings and closings. We're in very much this sort of fast shift between the death and rebirth process. So you might be grieving the loss of something, grieving the fact that you have to close something down or shut something down that you've loved and cherished and enjoyed or have attachment to, while you're celebrating the joy of something new coming in. It's very fast energy. Sagittarius is also asking for us to really distill our truth down, to learn through experience. Sagittarius is the higher mind. It is the sign of higher consciousness. And so many truths and downloads will come through this week. It's also a really powerful week to harness manifestation. And it was so fun to talk with Kristen Erlacher last episode on manifestation versus magical work and how you can sort of utilize the will, utilize the masculine to deepen your manifestations. We've had a lot of opportune and auspicious celestial events for manifestation over the last few weeks. And it's a great time with all of this solar energy at play, all of the Sagittarian energy, to really use this opening, this illumination, this direct and clear wisdom to root your desires, your values, what's really truly in alignment with the version of you that you're moving into. And I'm noticing a lot with clients that they're engaging with breakthroughs, and breakthroughs can often mean the dissolution of a lot of what you've known. So whether it's an illuminating event that has brought a lot of clarity, perhaps fear to the surface around that clarity, it's such a powerful space to work with that energy, to integrate it, to move through it. And that's where the massive upgrades come from. Up-leveling comes through the tending to our many parts as we navigate the change and choosing to move through it with resilience, with confidence, with courage, while still tending to our physical bodies and our many different parts. And don't forget to have fun. Gemini is playful. It's the inner child. It's it's the sign of siblings, of social events, of play, of communication, of gossip. Sagittarius is a sign of adventure. So there's so much that wants to be opened up and unlocked this week. It's our jobs to sit with where we're contracting through fear. And that's big, sacred work. Everyone around me, including myself, is undergoing some form of massive transformation, death, rebirth, and we're all at a different point along this cycle. Some people may be in that intense rebirth stage where they're really creating new things, being able to work with the energy in a way that's mobilized and activated. Some people are in the death phase, mourning the loss of what was, revisiting. And the card that I pulled today was so perfect. It's the Phoenix card, and it's all about resurrection. And I love this card. I love the archetype of the Phoenix rising from the ashes. It's the highest expression of Scorpio. And it's just something that I really resonate with, having a Scorpio rising and having my Pluto in the first house. It just feels like something that keeps us moving through the difficulty, the disillusion, the death, knowing that there is a phoenix on the other side, knowing that it's an upgrade. It's really what helps me move through my most dark, challenging moments. And this card is all about resurrection. He is a pillar of eternal light, presenting vital passages of cyclical regeneration. Phoenix is always transforming through birth, death, and resurrection. When everything that once was is no longer, he activates rebirth through fire and fortitude. Once he's offered his complete existence to the sacred flames, a new phoenix emerges out of the ash, and he arises young and powerful. The new phoenix is an emanation of his ancestors' labor and wisdom, refreshed and ready to give his gifts to the world. Phoenix sends the message that part of your life is undergoing resurrection. He facilitates the inward journey that is necessary before any rebirth. Nothing real can ever be lost. Let his medicine lay claim to all that is no longer relevant to your ever-evolving existence. Surrender yourself to the fire of renewal, and you will return reborn, refined, and with more beauty and power than you could have possibly imagined. When it's balanced, you're relaxed and trusting of the process. When it's imbalanced, there's inner conflict with what is. To bring into balance, allow yourself to grieve what has ended and deep rest. I don't know about you guys, but that card deeply resonates with me. And it's important to remember that if you're in that phase of death, decay, composting, if you feel like you can't see clearly, that's okay. You're not meant to. In many ways, we're meant to just be present with the process, present with what is, noticing how we've evolved and changed in the here and now. Think back to 2012. That's the last time Jupiter was in Gemini. It's entering Gemini on the 25th this week, on May 25th. And the last time it was in Gemini, think back to 2012. What were you doing? What were you navigating? What did you notice was presented in your life? What came around during that time? Are there similarities to now? It's a big week. I'm sending you all so much love. As always, thank you for your support, your presence, for your sharing, rating, reviews. All of the things help so much. I'm so deeply grateful. I have 1 or 2 spots left for mentorship in June. So if you're interested, you can book a clarity call. This is my very sacred mentorship container. It's a 3-month container focused on the integration of self. So we're going into your very deep layers, your core layers, really getting into the core wounds, beginning to allow the body and your being to feel safe enough to uncoil those patterns, to access and integrate the parts of you that are fragmented and that are keeping you held in the past. And to begin activating your DNA to form new ways of being, new pathways, new timelines. I've seen so much wild transformation occur within this container. I love it so much. So if you'd like to be the 1 or 2 people, you can go ahead and set up a clarity call. I'd love to talk to you. Thank you again for being here. I'm sending you all so much love. Have a beautiful, beautiful week.